There we go. That looks better. All right. Thank you, Mark. Acellus technical support. You can always count on him. All right. How is everyone enjoying Acellus World so far? All right. Is anyone excited to meet Tobias? Dr. Tobias is our head of video production here at Acellus. He and his team put together the amazing videos that you get to see and enjoy in your Acellus courses. He also appears weekly on Science Live. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Tobias.
Hey, hey. All right. Well, I am super excited about this session. We get to go behind the scenes of Acellus filming. Now, to get you excited, I want to play a little intro here. So let's check this out. If it'll play. You know what? I love how we're just having all these fun things today. Yeah, it is. Okay. It's okay, though. Okay, come back to me. Come back to me. It's all right. So scratch that. So I'm going to jump right in. Acellus video production. So what are we talking about? Now, with Acellus video production, of course, it's going to be making videos for you, right? You are the target audience. And when I say the target audience, it's literally students. And so when we make an Acellus course, we could get our phone out. We could find a blank wall, say, Todd, can you stand in front of this wall? And action. And we could film the whole course like that, save a lot of money. But we found if we'll go all out on the set design, the lighting, the production, the cameras, then the end results we found to be more impactful, more engaging for students. Hopefully. Right, students? Yeah. Yeah. So that's one of our wonderful challenges, though, is the whole reason that we do all of this work in video production at Acellus is to make the end result of our courses more impactful. And have we reached there yet? We're never going to, because Dr. Billings is always helping us remember we can do better. And so every year, the reason we're as far as we are is because he's pushing us to keep improving. And if we're as good as we are now in a year, that's not good. So we're always looking at how can we do better. And so you're going to kind of see some of the things we're at right now in production to be able to do this. So you guys ready to go in here behind the scenes? You want to see what's behind these curtains? Okay. Well, let's open these curtains and let's do this. So I'm going to go ahead and move my podium just a little bit back so you guys can see some of this. Oh, yeah, behind the scenes movement. Okay, so let's check out this room here. Here's a room of one of our studios. You can see this is kind of stepping back behind the cameras of what you would normally see in the finished video, okay? We got a lot of different things going. I want to show you some of the different parts that we put together to go into this. Now, one thing that you may not think about when you're going to film something like this is lighting. Lighting your teacher like they're a movie star. Lighting your set like it's a movie set. And the lights that you see, you can see some back there. There's some behind the teacher, some in front of the teacher. We kind of treat the lighting in our studios as two parts. One is the teacher lighting, and then one is the set lighting. And they have to work together, but they're both important. And so we do a lot of things to control and light in a very strategic way. Now, with the teacher lighting, you want those teachers to look good, right? If the teachers don't like how they look, nobody's happy. So we want the teachers to look good. We want it to be cinematic. But more important, I would say, is they got to look good, okay? And then the background, we want to light it in a way that's professional. And if you look, you can see with this one, this is a science set, we try to incorporate a lot of colors. And one of the things with lights that I like to do is turn them all off and then start building your accents. And when I say your accents, I'm talking about all those little accent lights. And so that's something that at our film school, the students get to work through. The team that are in our film school, they not only set the set, but then they have to light the set. Now, when we put our teacher in there, here we go, we have the teacher, and they're going to teach their course, okay? And with the teacher teaching, whatever the course is, and we have, so many different courses that we're going through, and you have the sets. I like this one. We built kind of this study set. This one, we actually hazed out. See how you see those rays of light? That takes a special kind of haze that we put in the studio. We used it in Todd's course as well, his conspiracies course. And haze is only there for how you light it. So if you want a ray of light, haze is what catches the light rays, okay? So lighting is a big, big part of it. I'm going to jump pretty quick over that. Let's go to the cameras, okay? So let me bring this one out here. Oh, yeah. So this camera here, this is one of our studio cameras. So this is from Blackmagic Design, and we're certified training partners with them. I'm not going to fangirl too much over this thing, but it is a really, really incredible piece of equipment. And what this allows us to do is capture some incredible picture. And let me just show you something here. I have a lens that I brought. Look at the lens on this thing, okay? What does the lens of a camera do? It's like the eye, right? It's like the eye of the camera. Behind the lens is the sensor that the light is getting focused on, but you need something to focus the world onto that sensor. So the lens has a stack of glass pieces that it uses to focus the light. What else does a lens do? It can zoom, right? You can zoom in, you can zoom out. Guess what? This lens doesn't zoom. It's fixed. That means it's one zoom and it doesn't change. See this lens? This lens can zoom out. It can zoom in. Which lens would you want? And when I was a young sprite teenager and learning about lenses, because there's two kinds of, well, there's cameras that have a fixed lens that you can't take off, right? And then you get the fancy cameras, the DSLRs or mirrorless or these big ones. You can change the lens. So here's a lens that can go on to, it could actually go onto this camera. And when I was learning about lenses, and still had a lot to learn, I was looking on eBay at lenses, and I saw a lens like this. In fact, this lens here. And whoa, it can zoom from 75 millimeter to 300. And guess how much it was? It was used, $79. Guess how much these lenses are? Thousands. Now wait a minute. What a steal. Why would I even want to spend time with that, let alone thousands of dollars? We could use this. You want to zoom out? Boom, zoom out. You want to zoom in? Zoom in. Save the money. Well, there's more to it. Let's talk about it because there's a couple things. One is quality of the glass. The glass in here and the glass in here are not created equal. And if I put this lens on and we filmed with this lens, our courses would not look nearly as well. Okay? That's glass quality. Also, look how large this one is, and look at the size of this one. There's one other aspect to a lens that I want to talk about that changes the game with photography or filming, and it's super important for every course that you've taken in Acellus. That is the opening in the lens that the light goes through. Aha. So it's not just about the zoom of the lens, the opening of the lens. And that opening is called the iris, just like your eye. Have you ever done the thing where you went in the bathroom, turn the lights off, get used to the dark, turn the light on, look in the mirror, and your eye goes shoo? You ever try it? You should. Because when your eye has an iris, and it literally is like the iris of a lens. If your eye has bright lights, it shrinks, the hole, the opening, so that it can control and let less light into your eye. If it's a very low light, like dark, 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 your iris opens so that you can see better in the dark. Same, so wait a minute. Okay, so the iris of a camera, if you have an iris that can open larger, it does better in low light. If your iris can't open very much, like this one, you get in a low light situation, it's not going to do very well. You're not going to be able to see very well, or it's going to be really grainy. But there's one other thing that iris changes, and it's pretty incredible. That is the background depth of field. So as the iris opens large, this camera, let me turn around here. This camera has an iris that can open much larger than this one. So it can do better in low light. But when that iris opens larger, your depth of field can get smaller and smaller and smaller. That depth of field is what in your picture, if I'm here and I'm photographing something or filming something, how much of it is in focus. If my subject is here, how much in front of them is in focus, how much behind them is in focus. If I open it up larger, the iris, that depth of field shrinks and shrinks. Why would we want less depth of field? Turns out in movies, that blurry background you see, they're doing that with an iris that is open large. Okay? Let me show you this shot of Todd Edmond. And forgive the coloring here. This screen was not calibrated to our coloring. But look at the background. Do you see the blurriness of that background? That blurriness is because this lens can open so large, the iris, that we can blur the background like that. If we wanted the background to be that blurry with this lens, the background would have to be very far away because the depth of field cannot handle that kind of closeness and make it blurry. Now, when I started with these prime lenses and we had this kind of camera, I was like, whoa. So now, again, this is a prime lens. So if I want to change the zoom, we actually change the lens. So this is an 85 millimeter. If we want to zoom out, we get one that's more zoomed out. The reason this doesn't have the zoom changing capabilities is because we don't need to change the zoom, but then also it allows the glass to stay more static. And it would have to be much bigger if it had a zoom change. So, but this is called a cine lens for cinema, okay? Now, you have to be careful though. I got crazy about that blurry depth of field. If you have an iPhone and you put it on portrait mode, you ever done that? And it does that blurry background? It's pretending to be one of these lenses. That's what it's doing. It's blurring the background like one of these lenses actually do. I kind of just started like, man, this is so cool. All of a sudden, we could make cinematic shots that look like they were out of a movie, because the background was so blurry. It was actually Dr. Billings had to kind of help me recalibrate, because I was just like, make the backgrounds blurry, make them blurry, because it looks so cool. And he was coming through the studios once, and he was like, why is this shot so blurry on the background? And I was like, well, I mean, it's pretty cool. And he's like, it looks kind of weird. And I looked at it, and I was like, whoa, it actually does. And I realized I had like gotten so into the blurry background because it was so cool and we could, that it was so blurry that the teacher almost looked like they were in front of a fake green screen. And you actually couldn't really take in the background, this beautiful set we had made, and it was like just blur. So we had to, with every tool and new ability, as cool as it is, you have to dial it in and use it right. So just because we can make the background super blurry does not mean we need to do that all over the place. But it's an incredible ability that these lenses let us do. Okay, I'm going to try not to nerd out too much on that. Now, when we film with these cameras, though, you might think, man, can you imagine if you had this? Like, if this was your family camcorder, like you're filming your camping trip, take this thing, smile, Jamie. Just go around filming. Can you imagine the quality of this? This camera can film in crazy resolution. The problem is, if you use this camera, it does something what they love to have in the movie film, the movie making. And that is, if I showed you what this camera filmed, it would look really, really bad. And what I mean is the color. The color looks almost black and white. And the reason that it looks black and white is because this can capture so much information of the shot that you're filming that it's captured the brights and the darks. Like if I took a cheap camera outside and you were sitting under the tree having a picnic and I filmed you, if I set the brightness for you under the tree, the sky, what do you think the sky would look like? Probably just white. If I turn down the exposure to capture the clouds in the sky, the tree shade would look probably black. So you got to choose. Am I going to expose for under the tree, or we got to go out into the sun? This camera, if you went into that same scenario, it could capture the shade and the sky at the same time. And that's called dynamic range. So in movie making, they use these kinds of cameras with a high dynamic range. The problem is when you get all that information and you look at the video, the color, there's so much color that you can't even really see it. It's like black and white. So to use this effectively, you need a really, really powerful coloring program to be able to color it. And that's what they love in the movies, because that way they can actually color it exactly how they want, and they're not losing the information. So we use DaVinci Resolve for our coloring. And this is actually their website. No, these movies are not in Acellus courses at this time. But DaVinci Resolve is what's basically the industry coloring software. And it's the same system that we use for all of the Acellus courses that you're taking. Thor is not on Acellus, I'm sorry. Okay, here's the interface. And so this allows us to dial the color in so that we can completely control. And it's amazing how you can change the mood, the feel of a video just through color. And so, you know, you could have an entire career just through coloring. Here's an image of Patrick Mara. See how it looks a little grayed out? Let's run it through DaVinci Resolve and bring the color in. There we go. How about that one? Okay, so there's Todd taking a stroll. Oh, yeah. So the color is a big part about that. Yeah, isn't that fun? All right, now, I do have to say that behind every Acellus course is an amazing Acellus teacher. And that is really what starts this entire process, is that teacher and the magic of the teacher. We're to about 170,000 videos filmed in Acellus that are published. There's more that aren't published yet. And but with each of those, the teacher that is in that studio is kind of what we base all of our lighting, our cameras, and equipment around. So that teacher has that pressure to deliver. And, you know, I have to hand it to our Acellus teachers. You know, it seems real easy to watch them and think, oh, man, you know, they get up there, they make it look so easy. Well, it's a lot to get in front of that camera. And a lot of our teachers, you know, they're used to this classroom with these rowdy kids, and they know what to do. But now they're in front of that camera. And we say action, and they have to act like they're in front of students. So one thing we have to do is work with our teachers to get them comfortable enough that they'll actually talk to that camera like it's their student. And Dr. Billings has had this really great idea that why don't we do something called sledge sessions. And basically what it is when a teacher's going to come in and film a new course, we do a sledge session. And that's where we run all the cameras, we do the slate and everything like normal, and we say action, but the whole thing's going to get thrown away. This is just like don't worry, it's not going to get published, and we let them try it without the pressure of, oh, it's the real thing, it's the real thing. But, you know, it's kind of daunting to think, wow, millions of students are going to watch this, teachers are going to watch this, parents are going to watch this, I better do a good job. And sometimes, you know, you just want to come in with a perfect script and read it. Hello, students. Today we're going to talk about science and why it's awesome. But do we like that? No, right? We want the raw teacher to come through. So that's our first goal with working with teachers in the studios, is we got to get them comfortable. And we've had teachers come in and say, well, when I'm in my classroom, I get kind of crazy. Like, yeah, that's what we want. We want the crazy. That's what the kids want, right? So we work with the teachers to get comfortable to where when we say action, they look at that camera and they talk to the students. They don't put on a fake show, they actually teach. But man, when they get in their zone, the magic just starts happening. And there's certain things I watch for. So like I've noticed, teachers have a certain trait. They have their talking voice. Hi, Tobias, how are you doing? I'm good. Then they have their teaching voice. So when I have to turn all of the mic settings down because now they're getting loud, that's a good sign. That means they're starting to do their teacher voice. But they get in their groove, and they can just talk to that camera. You get people like Todd Edmond come in there, and you know, he can be the morning, he's just getting ready to go, and we hit action, and he can just turn it on and talk to that camera. And he makes it look easy, but it's a lot to get up there and talk to that camera and have that energy. But man, is it incredible to have that connection. So that's what all of this is built around. Now, of course, when Dr. Billings comes and he says, no Acellus course is finished ever, how are you going to make it better? Okay. Now, what does that mean? No Acellus course is finished ever. And with Acellus courses, it's something that's ongoing because we find out if the kids like it or don't like it. We find out which videos were confusing, which ones were boring. And so we have to look at how are we going to make them better. And one of the things we are never satisfied with is the quality and the engagement of our courses. How can we make them better? How can we go above and beyond? Yeah, I think this is from our driver safety course with Tom Cruise. No. That's a Mission Impossible grab, and Mission Impossible is a good description because sometimes it feels a little bit like, wow, this is like an impossible mission. How can we make it better? But there's always more we can do. There's always new technology. One big one, green screen. So the green screen, of course, allows us to do all kinds of incredible things with engagement. So Todd, you can see him walking on this timeline. He's actually on a treadmill, but he burned 4 calories filming that shot right there. But yeah, seeing him on the, in the green screen, but being able to take the students places. Here's a shot where we wanted to be at Arlington, and we filmed, there. We had a little wind blowing in the hair from the fan. We had an AP music theory teacher. He's actually a conductor, so we filmed him on the stage. What if we're doing a chemistry course? What if we went into the chemistry? Isn't that fun? This is mind-blowing. What if we went deep sea? Isn't that fun? What if we wanted to go to the Arctic? So the teachers, we like to tell our Acellus teachers, assume we could do anything, which is a little dangerous to tell teachers. But we don't want them to think, well, I had some ideas, but I wasn't sure if we could do them. We want them to assume we can, and then we'll figure out how to make it work. But being able to bring these concepts to life is a real challenge. And in film school, we'll tell you, you get about 7 seconds to grab the attention of your audience, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a YouTube video. It's probably worse now, thank you, TikTok. But 7 seconds, and it's true in Acellus lessons. If we don't make the students want to listen, then are they? And so that's one of our challenges. And green screen has really helped make this lesson, the students just are too bored. They're not engaged at the beginning. So how can we film something to get them wanting to learn about fractions right at the beginning? And so those are the kinds of things we do with green screen. Okay, well, that's kind of a quick look at our studio production. Now, I thought it'd be fun to go on location with you and talk about some of our on-location adventures. Now, on location is different. Now, you've probably heard we went to Philadelphia, and that was incredible, and that's going to be in this new course. We actually, a few years ago, went to Boston, and Boston is another huge part of the American Revolution. With Boston, though, we went out there, Todd and I. This was kind of the first time we had done on-location filming like that. And I thought I'd mention just a couple things about Boston before we go to Philadelphia. One thing with Boston, Todd flew out, and we flew out to meet him in Boston. When Todd landed, he found out his bag of all of his not costumes, but what he was going to wear for the videos was lost. And it had gotten on another plane or been put on. It didn't get up and walk. Screw this, I'm going. It got put on another plane and went to another far away. And I'm like, wait, tomorrow morning we're scheduled to be filming. Like when we do these trips, the schedule, we spend weeks before working with the locations to get it locked in. So we're scheduled to be somewhere tomorrow morning. And Todd was wearing shorts, tennis shoes, and hey, students, we're on vacation. So that was not going to work. So I was like, can you get it tonight? He tried to work with the airline. I'm not going to say which airline it was, but they're no longer in business. And they were like, maybe we can get it to you tomorrow. We'll see. So the next morning, early in the morning, we made a run to Marshall's. Here is a screen grab of Todd doing his new course on shopping habits. But you can see he's picking up some ties, some shirts, good stuff. Here's him getting some shoes. We had to get the whole wardrobe. And then this is him coming out finally from the dressing room. Drop the mic. Okay, pick that up. Okay. And look, that's the Todd we know. Okay. And so off we went and filmed in Boston. And some of these videos are going to be mixed in as well. So those will be fun. So now, fast forward, we were much more careful about Todd's clothes this time. But then moving to Philadelphia. So this is what we just filmed. And I would hope that we had learned a lot of things from Boston and how we filmed and such. So what I wanted to do is bring these things up. So in Philadelphia, we're on location. Can you imagine taking this monstrosity around Philadelphia? I don't want to imagine that. That'd be a lot. So one of the things that we had to do, though, is we knew we were working in small spaces. And, you know, if you saw the assembly hall that we showed last night at Science Live, that room, they actually they wouldn't let us go certain places because other film crews had previously knocked things over and stuff. Bad things had happened, so they had made some rules. They didn't even let Nicolas Cage for National Treasure, which they filmed in that room, go there. So that tells you kind of how locked down it was. So we needed to be small and compact, but we needed high quality. So we have two different cameras here. One of them, I want to show you this one. So minus the wheels. We have the wheels for convenience right now, but we didn't have the wheels on it in Philly. But if I detach this for you, this is kind of what I lived with all week long in Philly. So I'm going to turn it on. This is called a gimbal, okay? So it's going to fire up here and get into position. So now I can move around and have a much more stable shot, okay? And I have a little joystick, so I can turn it around. I can control it. I can also flick my wrist side to side. You can't really see it as much, and I can realign it. Okay, so when you see Todd talking to a moving camera, it's usually a gimbal camera like this. And this thing can film up to 7K resolution, so the sensor is incredible quality. Now with a gimbal, one thing that I have to remember is if I walk normal, the world goes up and down. So with the gimbal, I have to remember, they say you want to roll your feet as you're moving. So if don't do that. Yeah, and walk careful. So, but you roll your feet so that the gimbal kind of stays in kind of this consistent positioning, okay? Boy, was it a workout. It was a good workout when you're filming like this all day long, and that's why we had this thing. So this allowed me I could place it into here, and then I would adjust the height. So what I'd sometimes do is have this kind of flying, and then I'd set it on the ground to give my arms a rest. There would be times where you're just like shaking because it's, Todd, wrap it up, right? So here's a picture of us filming. Now, when Todd films these lessons, he films the lesson, but then also we do B-roll. And B-roll really helps us have stuff we can cut to, okay, while he's talking. So he does the lesson, but then also we do several takes of B-rolls. So, okay, Todd, can you sit on this bench? I'm going to do some, orbiting shots around you and stuff. So that's Todd looking interested, like the fourth take going around. So here's some of our gimbal stuff that we did. So all of this is rotating around or following Todd. Okay, so this allowed us to have kind of that cinematic look. And the other thing I love about this is it gives you more of a 3D feel. Oh, these are the Rocky Steps. Fun fact, the Rocky Steps was the first movie that used the Steadicam shot. And the steps was actually what they used it for. But yeah, we filmed a little bit there. So this was our main camera. And then also, we had specialty cameras. Now, I didn't bring the drone, but I did bring this camera. I want to show you this. So this is a very interesting camera. It's called a 360 camera. It has a lens on this side, and it has a lens on this side. And it's filming everywhere. And so it's filming forward, sideways, up, down, back. And so what we would do this for, especially in places like Philadelphia, historic sites, the National Park Service has locked down most all their sites, so no drones can be flown to protect the sites. And I see where they're coming from. It's annoying, though, if I want to fly the drone, right? Some of the sites we did get clearance to fly. Some of them weren't national park sites, or we just had to get special coordination and work with the FAA. But some sites were absolutely not. You may not film here with a drone. You can't fly a drone. So what this would do is if I had a stick like this that I could extend out and out and out and out, then I could maybe take this stick and use it like a drone. But the thing is, I can't point it, but I don't need to point it because it's filming everywhere. So with this camera, I can, like if I was trying to make a drone shot of you guys and I could start back here and I could go like this and I could go out and over your heads, and then in the program on the computer, we can point the camera how we want it. So it's filming everywhere. Another cool thing is it actually splices this stick out, so it's not in the shot. So we would take this to locations, and then it's kind of a shift of thinking from another kind of filming, because usually I'm thinking, where am I pointing the camera? I got to turn it while I'm rotating. But in this, I'm not doing that. So let me show you. Yeah, like I said, it's filming everywhere. There I am. But this is looking at this on the computer. So watch this as I turn the shot. This is at Fort Mifflin. There's Todd. So now I can record, and it feels like I'm following him. And then if I put it up on a stick, I can get up high, and it feels like a drone shot. And I can change where it's pointed live in the recorded shot. So here's at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Obviously, we're not going to fly a drone there. So I took this, and there's a barrier. You can see the chains that I cannot step over. So we extended this, and then it allowed us. Let me turn it here. So let's get away from that guy. There we go. Turn, turn, turn. So there's the statue. There's Todd. And so then I could do a shot where I actually, so I tried it out. This is where I'm going to end up. So then I reposition, and then Todd walks, and I swing, and it almost looks like a drone was used, but it was not. And so this was an incredible tool. It's filming in 8K resolution, and then it allowed us, though, to get shots where you really felt more depth to it. Here are just some different shots that we ended up using in the course. So I put it up by the ceiling. That was a fun shot. Here's another shot at Fort Mifflin. Here's a church shot. Isn't that fun? So this, new technologies like this are, just allowing us to have new abilities that are really exciting. So these are called 360 cameras. They actually just came out with one that's on a drone. So you can actually fly a drone, and then it's filming everywhere. It doesn't take incredibly good selfies of you if it's like this, though. And usually you're like this on me, so we're going to not show those. And then, of course, we did have some cases where we did get to fly the drone. And we flew at Brandywine Battlefield, which was an incredible experience. So here's some drone shots of Todd walking through the battlefield. I really wanted to show how big this battlefield was. And if you could imagine, thousands and thousands of men. And we couldn't, that fence line there was how far we could see from the filming location. This whole hill was on the other side of this battlefield, and it just went on and on and on. But the drone, I mean, how do you capture that without a drone? I don't have a stick that long. But that was really incredible to be able to capture that with the drone. That's why having a drone is so nice, is you can capture those landscape shots. We went to the, let me move this back. We went to the Delaware River, and we had to get special permission to film with the drone there. It was a pretty windy day, but it was not over what the drone could handle. Here's Todd on the dock, and I told him, okay, let's have you look at the camera. Just look out over the water. So I'm flying backwards now. You can see me up on the ledge there. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to get up before I get to the other side so I don't hit the trees. So I'm going up as we pull back. Now I'm thinking, okay, we should be almost to the other side, maybe. And I thought, wow, how big is this river? And we kept going. And I'm like, I want to get to the other side. I want to show it. Where is the other side? And you don't realize how big that river is until you fly over it or across it in the middle of winter. But this is the river that Washington crossed. So finally, there's the other side. And that drone was moving fast. So it was incredibly, I mean, that's a lot of crossing to get done. But the expanse of it, the drone lets us see a lot better than what we could have seen just from the edge. So all of this equipment lets us capture things at some incredible perspectives. Now, a couple stories I thought would be fun. Fort Mifflin is a fort that was just outside of Philadelphia on the Delaware, and Washington needed to escape Philadelphia. The British actually took Philadelphia, but they couldn't really chase Washington and go after him without more supplies. But the only way to get supplies to Philadelphia was the Delaware and their ships. And so this fort was given the mission, you got to keep the British from having ships come up the river. And so the fort had to hold their ground, and they would be bombarded by ship fire, the cannons. And there was a time where they said in 1 hour, 1,000 cannonballs hit the fort and struck. There's a wall of the fort. Let's see if I can show it. Oh, it's not working now. It's okay. Let's go off the wall and come back, Vera. Can we black out and go back and let's see? Maybe not. It's okay. All right. Well, there's a wall that has actual, and you'll see this in the course, but actual scuffs still from the cannonballs. And then I wanted to show this. So at Fort Mifflin, we were going around, and there's a lot of old buildings in the fort because there's this wall around the fort. We found out, though, that a lot of the buildings were Civil War time period because they used this fort in the Civil War. And so most of the stuff there was a blacksmith there that was from the Revolution. So we were looking at stuff. There were some built into a hill where the Civil War soldiers, they had made kind of a fortress in a hill. But then we saw a sign, and it said, in 2006, we uncovered this basically passageway into the ground from the Revolution. Can you imagine that, finding that? That hole is what they uncovered. And they found this hole that the soldiers of the Revolution had built to store gunpowder, and they also used it as a makeshift prison for prisoners of war. And no one was with us. Todd and I were kind of scouting out what we're going to film. So we went and we looked at that hole. We're like trying to see inside. It's so dark. I wonder how deep it goes. And Todd's like, you got a flashlight? And I was like, I have my phone. So we went down with this little puny flashlight and went down. It felt like treasure hunters or ghost hunters, actually. But we went down, and to the bottom of the steps, there's a little opening doorway. Went through there. And at the back of the chamber, there was a passageway going sideways. So we kept going, and that went deeper, and there were actually 3 chambers. So in the lesson, we take the students down there, and we get to go exploring with Todd. So this is just some little clips of it. But there's the first door, and then the second chamber, and then it turns, 3rd chamber, and then the 4th chamber. But the gunpowder, all it would take is 1 spark from a cannonball that the British were firing, and that gunpowder would all light and go if it was up somewhere that was exposed. So they needed a protected place. So that's the chamber that they used for it. I just can't imagine in 2006 finding that, which is pretty incredible. This is a signer's hall. This is at the National Constitution Museum in Philadelphia. And they had a room where they had the signers of the Constitution, and they made statues based on their actual proportions and clothing documentation. So you can see Washington standing by Todd. That's Washington's height compared to Todd. And you can see Madison behind him. Madison's a short guy. But it was incredible to see that. And they also, at the Constitution, had documents. So if you know what common sense is, you'll learn about that in this course. It was arguably the document before the Revolution got going that kind of started it all. And at a time, they say it was the most circulated document aside from the Bible in the colonies. Thousands of copies were printed, and when people read it, it made them feel, wow, maybe we should be independent. While we were looking at this, it was written by Thomas Paine, and that's a story in and of itself. We're staring at it, and then I looked down at the bottom half of this copy they had, because the guy with us from the museum was like, this is a real copy from the 1700s, which is like, whoa. But then I looked down, and there was a little, almost looked like pencil writing, and it said Thomas Paine. And I was like, wait a minute. Is that Thomas Paine's writing? And he's like, oh, yeah, this was his copy. And Todd and I were like, and we realized, oh, my goodness, that is Thomas Paine's copy of, or one of his copies, I'm sure he had several, of common sense. So, and we filmed this, and it's in the course. One fun fact of the Constitution Museum, it's a newer museum, and Kevin, the guy who worked with us, said when they were going to build it, there's a section of Philadelphia that's where the old city was. It's Old City. They were required to do an archaeological dig first, and they found literally millions of artifacts in the ground. Makes you want to just go buy some land in Old City and start digging. So they found all kinds of things, and some of them we looked at in the course: buckles, wig curlers, buttons. They found coins, gunflint. There's a measuring stick there at the bottom. They even found paraphernalia of Ben Franklin. This is what he would dress as when he'd go to France. He'd wear like the fur hat and everything. But to imagine that's all just down there, sitting there from centuries ago, is pretty incredible. We found things, and all this is in the course, we found things we didn't even know were there at some of these sites. We went to an old house that George Washington had come to many, many times. It was the Powell House, and the Powells were very, very good friends of Washington. This is something that Elizabeth Powell actually took from Washington's at his funeral. They were close enough friends. She had a lock of his hair and wood from his coffin that she saved. And when we found this, we were like, wait a minute, that is George Washington's hair. And it was pretty incredible. And there were things like that, just the incredible fillings everywhere. Here is Benjamin Franklin's gravesite. And Benjamin Franklin, he's kind of the one that built Philadelphia, you could say, in so many ways. The library, the fire department, so many things, and of course the American Revolution. But this here, you can see there's tours of kids, and you don't have to pay to go to that railing. You have to pay to get inside. They let us inside. And we kept trying to film the lesson, and groups of people kept coming up, and there was traffic and stuff. Finally, I was like, Todd, you need to just acknowledge it. You need to just, in the lesson, say, we're in the middle of Philadelphia. There's people, there's cars, but right here in the middle of Philadelphia is Franklin's grave. And so we filmed the lesson, and people kind of noticed we were filming, and they were respectful. There's coins on a lot of these old grave sites where you can go place a coin on there as a way of respect. And so I got a Ben Franklin $50, and Todd in the lesson puts that on the grave, which is neat. There's a shot of it. I did take that $50 after and brought it back, and it's in a little display now. But it was neat to be able to film at these sites and try to capture some of the incredible fillings there. And, you know, with every Acellus course that we do, we want to make it something that, yes, engages you, yes, teaches you, but hopefully also just gives you hope, gives you excitement. And it's always exciting for me to see the students and see your excitement for, you know, when you meet these teachers and people you feel like you've come to know because you've been with them, spent so much time with them. But we love the fact that what we get to work for, what we get to strive for and do better for, isn't to be the next top Netflix streaming movie, not to sell the most IMAX tickets. It's to help kids do better. And that's what all of our efforts are for. So I wanted to show a little clip as a tribute to our film crew and our teachers and everything that Dr. Billings and the Acellus team are doing.
Friend, I'm so glad you're here today.
Today we're going to do something very exciting.
I invite you today to step back in time with me.
Are you ready for an astronomical adventure?
We're going to talk about the bouncing of light or reflection.
Today, let's talk about historical sites.
Are you good at counting? You're probably really good at counting.
Welcome to another session of physical activity.
Welcome to United States history. The entire history of the United States? Yes.
What makes feedback so powerful? It can turn a good essay into a great essay.
Did you know a hippopotamus's mouth can open 150 degrees?
Let's get started on making you a coding pro.
What I'm going to tell you right now is important.
Let's hear it for our teachers. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, everybody. Take care.